Welcome to the Multifamily Zone, where business meets family. We explore what the entrepreneur life looks like from the family perspective. Now here are your hosts, Julia and Gino Barbaro.
Hey everyone, this is Julia Barbaro, one of the hosts of the Multifamily Zone podcast. I'm here with my co-host, my husband, and the co-founder of Jake and Gino, Gino Barbaro. Hey Gino, we've had a great week so far, haven't we?
We have. We were in Tennessee for a few days. We were out there doing some business, but a lot of fun. I was Jake's godfather to his son, which is awesome. The kids had a great time.
They did. We're
back home. We love being back home, right, Joel?
Yes. Sunny Florida.
So today's guest, I mean, this is going to be a big treat for us because I met today's guest a couple of years ago when I first moved to St. Augustine, and I knew I had a connection with him. I loved his family. I loved the vibe that he gave off. Let me introduce you to Jim Sheils. Jim is the founder of 18 Summers, which specializes in live events, workshops, and private consulting for organizations looking to strengthen their family lives while still succeeding in business. He's an in-demand public speaker and owns a private real estate company that has done more than $200 million in transactions. He's an avid surfer and enjoys traveling with family and friends, especially his beautiful wife, Jamie, and their 4 children, Alden, Leland, Magnolia, and Samson. Great names, bro. I love them. His greatest invention to date, donating a kidney to the best guy on the planet, his father. Without further ado, Mr. Jim Sheils, how we doing?
Good, guys. Good to see you again.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm holding up the book for all the YouTubers out there, the family board meeting. This is something in the entrepreneurial space that is often not spoken about, but what everyone strives for, that family connection. So, Jim, how did you come up with the family board meeting book and that slogan, 18 Summers?
You know, the whole theme of this work came up because I was scared. I saw years ago, like conversations we've had, Gino, where I got invited back to wealth creation and personal development events, and I saw a huge disconnect between people that were successful on stage and what happened behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times the family life suffered. They weren't present. They weren't close. They had a big balance sheet, but they were bankrupt at home. And so I really started looking into this before I even had my own family. And then I started to come up with ways where, how do I make sure my family becomes since I think like an entrepreneur, why fight it? I said, how can they become clearly my most important clients and investors always? And so I started to come up with fun little rhythms and systems. And this one that eventually turned into a book started with quality time coupons, a Christmas about a decade ago with my sons. And it kind of just spread like wildfire when I started to tell people about what had come about from this simple little rhythm. And I saw from mentors of mine, if you can set powerful rhythms in your family life, it acts like strongholds. Like we all live by the beach, right? And we know those houses on the beach, they got to have those strong pilings. These rhythms are the pilings in our family life. And if I can set them and help other families set them, I know that my work is done. Because that will help keep them more engaged, more consistent. And those are things that can be very hard for busy ADD entrepreneurs like myself.
Sure. Jim, give me an example of what you say, because it's easy to just say, yeah, we're going to connect with the kids, but it actually takes effort and work. Because a lot of us, if we have multiple children, to give each of those kids, a time of the day, all of yourself, it takes a lot of effort on our part. So give me an idea. Yeah, give me an idea of how you do that.
Well, again, the setting rhythms is one of the best ways I've found to make sure that I'm getting to all the kids. So like you guys, I have a big family, not as big as yours. I'm close, but I have 4 kids.
Not yet.
Not yet. So we're at 4 kids. So that's a lot of moving parts. And again, with this board meeting strategy, it was a way that I made sure every quarter I was having focused one-on-one quality time with each of my children. Because they're each individuals, as you know, they're each different. We raise them the same, but they come out different. They have different talents and strengths and weaknesses. And the only way I've found to have this time with them and to get to know them personally, because I want to know each of my kids. I don't want to just know them as part of our family. I want to know them as individuals, was to set this rhythm. And again, like Gino had said, and him and I talk about this all the time, are they going to be your kids after 18 summers? Of course. And I know your oldest daughter still is. But those first 18 years they're a planting ground. They're a time when you can really fertilize just the magic that they're going to sprout into. So you got to take hold of those 18 summers, those seasons of when they're home. So that first of all, they're going to want to spend more time with you after the 18th summer.
They're going to want to come back. Yeah,
they're going to want to come back. And sadly enough, I've worked with enough families where if they haven't been there, the kids are like, well, they're strangers anyway, and I'm an adult now. So that's very hard to reverse the gears on. But also, if you take this, what I found is one of the best ways to strengthen my relationship and really go into deeper lessons that aren't necessarily taught in school, that's when I have this one-on-one time with my kids. So the conversations, the things that come up, it's just things that I didn't have as a kid. And I want to make sure that my kids do have that.
I can give a personal example on that. The 18 summers is important because what you do in those first 18 years is you're planting seeds and you're making it grow. And our oldest daughter, Gabriella, after sophomore year, she wanted to quit school and go be a missionary for 9 months, right? So we discussed it, and any other child would have been like, I'm doing what I want to do. And we just sat down rationally with her. And if we didn't have that great relationship with her, she probably would have done what she wanted to do. Now, I'm not telling her not to do that, but we actually just said to her, maybe it's better if you finish college, get your school done, and then you can pursue
that.
Well,
like Jim said, it's important that they have a voice in the family. They're not just one of the children. They also have an opinion. And, that's very important to make sure that they know that they're,
absolutely.
I love the 18 summers because you're planting the season, you're enjoying those first 18 years, but then when they become adults, you can still have those conversations with them. You're not really telling them what to do, but you're giving them guidance, and they're more open to be listening to you. When they do have a problem, they're going to come back and talk to you first and say, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm thinking of doing this, not making these decisions, just rational, emotional decisions, and then all of a sudden you can't do anything about it. It's always good to be part of the family and have that conversation with the family first.
Absolutely. And you have to build an emotional, I think it's Stephen Covey talks about the emotional bank account. Children, you have to have an emotional bank account with. And you can't all of a sudden step in if, like Gabriella at that age at 20 and help influence her for the best decision possible if you've been building a business as a stranger for the last 10 years. And that's where I always try to hammer home with the 18 summers. You have to be, your family cannot wait 5 or 10 years. Unfortunately, that was an old program that was taught. Go all in, do everything you can, sacrifice, and they'll understand later on. There is no later on. They won't understand. There has to be deposits made and priorities made, even as you're building your business. It's undeniable. And if you don't do it, that's when you're really, when you're digging yourself out of a hole, when they're 15, 20, 25, and almost you're going, what happened? Where did the time go? Why don't they talk? Why do they go to their friends on the internet instead of talking to me? And no parent wants to know that, right? Yeah, no parent wants to feel that.
I love that. What are the 3 steps to creating a board meeting?
Yeah, so a board meeting, what I decided is just an important meeting I have with each one of my children. If they're my most important investors and clients, I usually have some sort of rhythm where I'm contacting my most important in my business every quarter. And then every quarter I'm meeting with my team. You heard about quarterly board meetings with big companies. Well, what are they for? They're to reunite the team and look ahead to the next 90 days. I do this with my kids. Every 90 days, I have a board meeting, an important meeting with each one of them. And there's only 3 guiding principles to these board meetings. The first is one-on-one. And if people out in Jake and Gino community don't listen to anything else, listen to this. The biggest, I don't like the word hack because this is truly a mastery principle, but one of the biggest shortcuts I've seen to jumpstart your relationship, to make up for lost time, is one-on-one time. You got to separate the parts to strengthen the whole. Because when you have that one-on-one time, it puts the magnifying glass on just that relationship. And if we got some of the quiet, kind of non-talkative, communicative dads out there, usually mom does the talking. If you're one-on-one, sorry guys, you have to step up. You have to do the talking. So the first rule is one-on-one. When I do a board meeting, no one's invited. My wife's not invited as much as I love her. The brothers and sisters aren't invited. My best friend's not invited. Their best friend, a cousin, no one. It is literally one-on-one. And you guys think about it. One-on-one time when we're busy in family life, we have big gatherings and this and that. If you don't get intentional and set one-on-one time, it can pass by without even happening.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, is it more of a listening? As a father, are you more listening to what they have to say, or are you more talking? Because I'm actually curious about that.
I listen more.
Yeah.
I'll ask questions, but what I'll do is at the end, and I'll get into that, Julia, with the focus reflection. Brene Brown talks about the value of vulnerability. That's when I'm able to say something to them that, like I always say, a lot of kids need a meaningful conversation or a sincere apology more than a 5-star vacation. So that's my chance on the board meeting to say, you know what, I've been extra busy or even a little cranky and I'm sorry. Here's what I've been working on and you've been great. And, or maybe it's just something of more vulnerable, but my conversation is light and I try to listen. And it's different with each kid. One of my boys is like, blah, 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 blah. The other one is more stoic. Sure. So he might not say much, but I can say some words and just sit there and whatever comes out, I'll accept. If that makes sense. So, and in order to get to that point where they're actually going to communicate is step number 2. And this is absolute gold without electronics. And I know we've talked about this, Gino, like we have to have periods in our life, if we really care about our family, of complete and total unavailability. You have to. There's no other way, because if you're without electronics and you're just focused on the relationship, your kid doesn't have their phone, you don't, you can really be there. And I've done this with interviews with family groups that I've gotten together with, saying, okay, let's say you're going out on this board meeting, you've set this day, you're one-on-one, you're going out to do something fun. And as you're there, you get this text that's something you've been working on for months, someone just dropped the ball on. Are you really going to be present? Are you really going to be there? And I say the same things to the kids. Let's say you're on Instagram and you're out with your mom and dad on this, it's supposed to be just one-on-one time, and your phone goes off and someone puts something on Instagram that's not a dig at you, but it kind of is, and it hurts your friend's feeling. Are you going to be there? Are you going to be taking it out on them? Are you going to be present? There's just no way. Right. So I think it's an absolute blessing to have times where I'm completely unavailable. It's very unpopular now where people say, you can always get me, you can do it. Not me. You know, tomorrow I actually leave. Tonight I leave, and tomorrow I'm going to Disney World with Maggie for the first time for a board meeting, actually tomorrow. You're not going to be able to reach me. My phone's going to be on airplane mode to take a few pictures, but my computer's off because I don't want that email. I don't want that text. I don't want that interruption, because if I take that call, it's going to show that, hey, this call is more important than you. That's
right. We just talked about that in the last podcast. It's so important.
And we've run it through, I think, not to sound like an older person, but I think this generation sometimes is disconnected. Yeah. And I think they're so worried about, and I don't even have an Instagram page. I have a Jake and Gino Instagram page because I don't want to start living in someone else's reality. I don't want to make my life appear to be greater than what it is. I've got an awesome life, but you look at Instagram and you think everyone's out doing everybody else and they're always doing these stories and everything like that. Sometimes you get lost in that, and that's part of the business aspect that we have to handle. But you know what? When you're having dinner, put the phone away. When you're having lunch, put the phone away. When you're in the car going somewhere, I actually put the phone in her bag. I'll put it on vibrate, and for an hour or two, doesn't matter. I don't have to pick it up. It doesn't go anywhere. And especially when you're sitting down and having a talk with your children, don't even have the phone in the room. Don't even have it. Don't even tempt it, because you know what? They take cues, because if you have your phone there or you're disconnected, they're going to be disconnected. They can read body language intuitively. They know what's going on. So be the leader. If you're going to be the leader of your company, be the leader of your family also.
Absolutely.
Model of your family. So didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, you're adding on to that. And I agree that we have to look at that, because we say we want our kids to talk to us. Let's say your kid has something really heavy on them and they come up and you're like, well, hold on. Yeah. Well, what's going on? And all done that. And that's a really embarrassing thing when you think back on it. Why would they open up to you? Why would they? If you're always so busy and always on something else, they almost feel like, oh, they're not available, or, you know, it's too much. I don't want to burden them.
And I'll be honest with you, I cannot for the life of me do two things at once. I can't watch TV and speak to my wife, or I can't be texting and I cannot be present. So I know that's my weakness. I have to actively listen to somebody. I can only be talking to Jim and Jim alone, and I can't be on 3 different devices. You see, when we do our mastermind meetings every Thursday, we get together at 10. That's the power. We have meetings every Thursday morning at 10. I leave the phone in the other room because I know if I get distracted, my mind goes somewhere else, like you said, and right there, I'm not present for you. So that's important that you do that. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, it's so key. So again, the beauty of this, and one of my principles, is simplicity. People go, this is so easy. So every 90 days for 4 hours, you're with each one of your kids for a minimum of 4 hours, having this fun day that they've planned, and it's one-on-one without electronics. And the third rule is a fun activity of their choice with focused reflection.
That's important, actually, because that's something so important. A lot of the times we are like, this is what we're going to do. Isn't this exciting? And the kids are like, yeah, Mom, that's great. That's so important, isn't it?
We think we know. And I say, look, people say, I want to learn more about what they're interested in, what they're passionate about. Let them plan this day. Once every 90 days, let them plan.
Sometimes we're like, that's what you're interested in, really? And it's so boring or whatever. And we're like, no, we have something better for you. But it's so important.
Yeah, and it's in the best intentions.
Right.
But we get so busy in the planning, let them plan. That gives buy-in, that gives ownership. And a fun activity with focused reflection, just so you guys know, that's the shortest definition in the world for experiential education. So all we're doing is using the power of experiential education, which has been proven to be the most successful, effective education on the planet, but we're using it to strengthen the relationship with our family, with our closest relationships. And when you plug into this, again, it's something that builds one upon the other. Again, we've been doing this almost a decade, starting with my 2 oldest sons, who I adopted when they were 7 and 5. You guys know them. And it's such an incremental growth. Again, every 90 days for at least 4 hours, one-on-one, without electronics, a fun activity of their choice with focused reflection. Now, focused reflection, so you guys know, it's nothing fancy, and people go, oh my gosh, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not an experiential education expert. You don't need to be. All that means is you're going to do something fun, you're going to be totally into it, and then maybe have a meal, and at the end, you're going to spend time talking. And the first question of experiential education is simply, hey, what was your favorite part of the day and why? And that gets the conversation going. And just to have this time where you've gone through decompression, you've spent the day together, there's been no distractions, that's when the open lines of communications happen. So if you spend time talking at the end of the day, that's like the tie-in. That's like almost making like your perfect creme brulee, but not burning the top of it, right? If you don't have that time to talk at the end. So that's the whole system. This is where, and again, I guess it's probably one of the ways we met, that thousands of entrepreneurs are using this now. And they're like, geez, I can keep up with this once a quarter, at least 4 hours, one-on-one, no phone, fun thing of their choice, and we're going to spend time talking. And let me tell you, the conversations that I've gotten emails about that their kids have opened up with phone calls, my own experiences, these are the pilings in each relationship that I have with each of my children.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors.
Hello everybody, this is Jake Senziano, co-founder of Jake and Gino Multifamily Education. We are super excited to be bringing Multifamily Mastery Live to Orlando this October 19th and 20th at the Gaylord Palms Resort and Convention Center, located 10 minutes from Disney and the airport. This event is going to be the multifamily event of the year. Our team is going to be providing unparalleled networking, education, and capital raising opportunities. The event will be formatted utilizing our 3-step investment framework: buy right, manage right, and finance right. Your experience will include networking with brokers, lenders, and vendors from across the multifamily spectrum. Our speaker lineup consists of doers, or as Gino likes to say, the doers, meaning that these are professionals working in the business, making it happen day in and day out. If you're ready to take the next step in your multifamily investing career, click the link and get ready, because it's time to make it happen.
All right, we're back. Jim, you were talking about some tips for successful board meeting. Can you give us a couple more tips for holding a successful meeting with your kids?
Yeah. First, before I get into some of the tips, that which we schedule gets done. People go, why don't these board meetings work? Why wouldn't they work? The number one reason that they don't work is people don't put them on their schedule. This is an important client investor meeting, more important than anyone else you work with, as far as I'm concerned, your spouse and your kids. So put it on the calendar. It is a non-negotiable meeting. You wouldn't cancel with your biggest investor in your business. You're not going to cancel with your son or your daughter or wife unless there's something, extenuating circumstance. So you got to schedule it. So that's the number one tip. The second thing is be completely present. If you're going to be there, be there. And everyone out there knows what I'm talking about. Don't be working that next deal out in your head. Don't be having a mental fight with someone that pissed you off at work. Be fully present, because if you're not, your kids will notice and they're going to disengage pretty quickly as well. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do on this is this, and I do this on stage all the time. We go into certain things because entrepreneurs, we got to fight sometimes, but our kids and our wife are not part of our fight. They're in our corner. You got to put your dukes down. If you're going on this, we don't realize when we're going through tough business things or this and that, sometimes we got our guard up. Drop your guard. Your kids are not there to hurt you. Be vulnerable. Even if it feels uncomfortable, drop your guard. And once you drop your guard, they're going to start to drop their guard. So the last thing you want to do is this tip. Don't cram in too much content. You spent this day one-on-one with your kids. Your phone hasn't been off. You're going to feel good. You're going to feel connected. Don't try to cram in 50 lectures that you've been planning to better their life. That kills the moment. That shatters the magnifying glass. Not cram in too much content. And when you do that, then there might be light conversation. Like when you asked before, Julia, like, what do you say? Like sometimes our focused reflections, especially in the beginning with one of my sons, he didn't talk much, but I would say about 2 or 3 sentences. And that's what he needed to hear. Right. And I know it because it was repeated back to me years later. Nice. So you don't it's not about what you speak a million words already by doing this, because so many people just don't spend one-on-one time with their phone off doing something fun of their choice rhythmically every 90 days. So you're speaking enough by just doing that. And with saying that, say it. That's my final and best thing that I can tell you is you will know once you go on a board meeting. But we're all so busy. We're all moving so fast. When you've actually set this block of time and you've actually gone through this period with no distractions, doing something fun, probably had a meal together, decompression has occurred. And again, like I said, that's an open lines communication come up. And again, Brene Brown's vulnerability. You might have something very vulnerable to say. And being a natural Northeastern macho guy, it feels very uncomfortable to say it. Like, oh, I'm not going to say that. It doesn't need to be said. They know. But I recommend you say it, because I've called myself out so many times, kicking myself, saying, say it, say it, say it. And after I do, I feel like I want to throw up, because I was raised Irish Catholic. So your arm could be falling off and everything's fine. You know what I mean? My tough old Irish dad does that stuff. Yeah, right. So you guys know, but so I'll just say things like anything of, like my adopted son. I said, you know what? I just love this time together because I missed the first 7 years with you, and I want to make up for it. And this is so important to me to get to have a relationship with you.
That's awesome. It's so simple. Yeah, what you're saying is so simple. And the thing is, I'm going to be honest, we don't do that. We go out with the kids, 5 minutes for coffee here and there. And it's like, all right, let's rush back and get home to, whatever we're doing at home. And that's something that we are going to be starting. And I'm going to let you know how it goes. But it's very exciting, and again, it's effort. And we have to remember that to have a successful relationship, especially even in marriage, we have to be all in, right? So you have to be all in with your kids, with your spouse. And this is definitely going to make a difference.
But since moving to Florida, I've had much better rhythms down here, because I'll go on a walk 4 or 5 nights a week with one of my children. I'll do a golf cart for 15 minutes. I'll pray every night with the kids before they go to bed. Right. So I do have these rhythms that you've set up just intuitively, because I know they need to speak. One-on-ones, I'll have CC Dad Day. I'll go fishing with her. I'll go to the beach with her. More than that, or with Ron's, we're going Saturday to Target because she wants to buy, like you said, she's into these kitchen gadgets. What 10-year-old wants to buy kitchen gadgets? But that's what she wants. And she goes, an egg beater. And I'm like, really? A 32-cent spatula? That's what you want? Great, man. You just
How about it?
You know what I'm saying? No Andrella Valentino shoes. That is great. I'm all in on that. So I mean, I think the one-on-one is really powerful because I do a lot of stuff with multiple kids, and I can see sometimes that they want that one-on-one and say, I just want to go for a walk with you. That's important.
Well, and we have similar age gaps.
Mm-hmm.
They're in different stages of their life. Our 4-year-old's conversation is much different than our 15-year-olds.
Right.
And that's a good thing, because I think you'd be in trouble if it's the same conversation they want to have. That's why the one-on-one time is, again, I just come up with that. If I can separate the parts, I'll strengthen the whole. So, and if you set this and people go, 90 days isn't enough, what do you not spend enough time with your family? I'm saying, you know how quick 3 months goes by?
And if you don't schedule it, it won't happen. You'll just keep thinking about it. I agree with that 100%.
Exactly. So that which we schedule gets done, and you got to separate the parts to strengthen the whole. That's why I think this has had so much success, because a lot of entrepreneurs, we set ourselves up for failure. They read something like this and they're like, excellent, I'm going to do a board meeting every 2 weeks. And then what happens? They might go through that first month and get it done, and then they overwhelm and they fall apart. And I talked to them 10 months later and they haven't had a thing. I said, stick with this program. We put a lot into it. People a lot smarter than me with the science of why 90 days, for anticipation, reflection. Set this goal. And what I always say to people is, Gino, you've taught me this on certain things. Start with the first step. When people say, well, how do I do this? You have summertime right now. This is a beautiful time where things kind of slow down. There's usually less on the agenda. Schedule one board meeting with each of your kids, just one, and see what happens. And normally people go, hot damn, you were right. I knew it. I was 3 hours in. I'm going, Jim told me I was going to feel this. Now I get it. All I had to do was schedule. So I say set one, just one, and see what happens.
Yeah.
That's cool, because it's funny. We're going to a boot camp in about 10 days. Where our Jake and Gino students, we have a buy-right boot camp in Atlanta, and I'm taking my son. He's 16 years old. I'm going partially because I want him to come, and he went to our one in January. So that's our chance to be on a plane together. That's our chance for him to be around the Jake and Gino community. That's our chance for him to learn from some amazing people, and that's my chance to sit there and say, hey, the real estate, and hey, be part of the business. So that's my way to connect.
But this is something that you want to do. Yes, but I think it will be helpful. I'm just saying, it's important to remember that. Hey, Michael, let's spend 4 hours together. Where do you want to go?
No, I'm separating it. No, I'm separating it. But I'm saying I'm just segueing this into if you do have a business, this is some way you can get your child into your business and see if he really likes it. Sure. So the one we went in January, he loved it because he hung out with all the Jake and Gino members. We went out to lunch together. We actually spent the weekend in Atlanta. So I Ubered with him. I stayed in a hotel with him. And as an entrepreneur, if you're really busy, if you can start introducing that to your children and letting them become part of it, and it's just not just a company, but it's the culture we're creating, and he can learn while being there, and you can spend some quality time with him. That's a home run as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. Separate the parts to strengthen the whole. An airplane ride is a wonderful way to do it. But I always say, try to schedule one every 90 days with each kid, because the reason is, and for people, once they're kids, they say, my kids are already grown. They live 4 hours away or half a country away. I say, do one. I've known people now for the last 5 years, they had kids ranging from 22 to 40. They do 1 day a year, one-on-one, and they said it changed the relationship. Because normally when they get together, it's like a big family event, which are beautiful, and I love them. But it's not really, it's tough to go below the surface in those busier times. So they actually, when they're grown, I have a lot of people now that do one a year, just 1 day a year, one-on-one with their kids. But for if they're still home, I think if you do that and you schedule with each kid, it also prevents the Jan Brady syndrome. Do you guys remember Marsha? With my kids, it's like, hey, every 90 days, Lil and Maggie, Sammy, they each have a board meeting, so they can't say, oh, you're my favorite. No, everyone gets a board meeting. Everyone has an important day with dad every 90 days.
I have a question. Does your wife do it as well? Is that...
So that's a great question, and so many people ask this, Julie. The answer is now, yes. When this first came into existence, it was me who started doing it. And I'll tell you why. First of all, as you know, I adopted the boys when they were 7 and 5. So it's like that awkward stage of we wanted to know each other. We really liked each other. Yeah. And I was the busy entrepreneur traveling and rebuilding a real estate business post meltdown. So it was really important for me, the busy entrepreneur, to start to do them most, because she was getting more quality time. She was a better communicator. I mean, I always joke this might be sexist, but on the most part, females are more emotionally evolved. I mean, we're big dumb animals, us guys, for the most part. To put something on myself, I've had to get much better at communicating. And my wife already was, but now we're at the stage where, yes, like last week she had a board meeting with Maggie, and now this week is mine. So we usually are crisscrossing around. So it's, again, it's important for both, but starting out, there's probably someone in the family that's more absent. And not for a bad thing. It was me, starting almost a decade ago, because I was building the business, and also I was just getting to know my two older.
Right.
So now we both do it, but it's most important for that busy entrepreneur.
Okay. It's interesting. I mean, being a stay-at-home mom and being homeschooling the kids and all, I have to be honest, sometimes I'm there, right? They're always with me, but we're not connecting. We're in the same room, but you're not connecting because, well, the kids are here. So I don't really have to go out with them because we're always around each other. But it is important to take one away from everyone else. And it's hard when you have babies and all. So I'm at a good part in my life right now where my youngest will be 5, which is strange to me. But
Jim, you just hit the credit card, man. You're killing me now. It's just like, oh my gosh. And I'm going to babysit now. Oh, Jim, you're a killer. I bring you on today.
I told you it might not get pretty here, but
we'll go out too.
I'm going to tell everyone on the show. My favorite quote, when my wife says it to me, she says, Gino, I was thinking. So when I hear that, and I joke around with Jake, that means $sign. So she's going to say, Gino, I was thinking I'm going to do a board meeting today. So now that's the new segue.
I'll have Gino call you Jim.
That's right. I'll take the heat. I'm okay with that. I know it's going to be good for you. But yeah, in all seriousness too, what you just said is so important. And for people listening to this, one of our first retreats I did like 7 years ago, when we do family retreats, we were talking about the definition of quality time. I remember there was this kid, Chaz, who I'm still in contact with today, him and his mother. And his mom was a really good mom, very involved in his life and all that. His oldest sister was older than him and had gone to college. So he'd pretty much been an only child for a good amount of years. And when we explained the definition of quality time, he said something that it still sticks me in the side as a reminder. He said, well, my mom works from home. She had her own business. She says she works from home, so we don't really get to spend that much quality time together. Yes. And I was like even the camera guy, I remember, went, whoa, what did he just say? And I said, no. And so he said it again, and he's like, well, no, if you just told me what quality time was, and she works from home, so we don't really get to do that. And he was basically an only child at this point. So I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, and I used to work from home. And as you know, I don't now. I do a little bit, but me and Gino share an office now, just to have that separation.
Yeah, it's important because you're working from home. That means you can always work. There doesn't have to be okay, it's time to go home now, separation. So you can be always working. The kids can be literally sitting next to you, and you don't even acknowledge them. You're like, oh yeah, go ahead and go do that. I'm busy right now. And that could be, you have to be aware. Otherwise that's what happens. I completely get that.
Yeah. There's a big difference between passing time and quality time.
Absolutely.
Huge difference. And the one thing I've said, when you set up that connection, when you set up that scene of connection, just the dividends that pay out on true quality time, it's 1,000 to 1 compared to passing time. That's what we're talking about when we have passing time. So that's where when people go like, oh, I'm behind on my relationship, I've been built up. I've seen what true quality time can do to mend and leapfrog your relationship forward.
Absolutely. And including in your marriage as well. And that's, I know we're talking mostly about the kids, but if the kids see a solid marriage in the house, wow, what a gift that is, right?
Oh my gosh. We have, Jamie and I basically have almost a board meeting every week. We have date night with a question. That's so when people say, what are your most 3 important rhythms? Weekly family meeting, like quarterly board meetings, and then weekly date night with a question. So as you guys know, we've gone on dates with you guys before. Every Thursday night though, 5:30 to 8:30, unless there's something big time changing, then we'll reschedule it. we're on a date and my phone's off, we're one-on-one, and we bring one powerful question. And I don't know if Gino told you, I gave him our deck of cards.
I got them. They're awesome.
Okay.
The cards are awesome. Yeah.
So but that's so important because like you said, when people, and I know I can say this to you guys and we stand together on this, and the community might go, really? Too many people have said, oh, I'm doing it for the kids. It's so important for the kids. If you want a family, all the history I've shown, all the mentors I've seen, it's the husband and wife stand first, and then the kids come second.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
It has to be like that. And if it's not, it's almost like there's a fraying and like an incohesiveness of family. It's got to start with the strong marriage, and I think that benefits the kids. Instead of saying, well, I can't spend time with you, I need to be here with the kids. It's like a myth that too many people buy into.
We're going to hit that on the next week's podcast, is when I'm talking about relocating with the family, and everyone's like, well, I can't do that because I can't take my kids out of school. If you're not happy as a father and a wife and not happy together in your situation, you're just going to bring down your family. So you need to think about your happiness first and what's best for the family, and not worry about, well, you know what, I'm going to take my daughter out of high school and she can't, she's going to have trouble relocating. Obviously, if you're unhappy in the situation, and I was unhappy in New York, and
that was a big deal. That was a big deal for people because we had kids. When we moved to Florida, we had all age kids. And they're like, how can you take the kids away from their friends? And I said, because my husband wants to go. And nobody could handle that. They're like, well, what do you mean? And I said, because my husband wants to go and he needs that. He needs that change. And I'm completely all in with that, completely fine with that. And they were fine.
Who's more important? A friend you might stay in contact with, or a father you're going to have forever. And it really does come to that. And again, like you said, if there's open communication, I tell my kids, hey, this is why we're living where we are. This is why we're doing what we do. And there's buy-in there. I'm sure, like Michael was like, yeah, this kind of hurts, but I get it, Pop. I don't want to see you in the restaurant business working head over heels and never seeing you and not thinking ahead. This is a chance for us to evolve to the next level.
Right. And it was important for them to see that we were looking at Dad. Everyone's looking at Dad and saying, look, he needs a change. And they eventually are all like, you know what, you were right, Mom. I get it. And it's important for them as they grow up. Yeah.
Well, good on you guys for making them a part of the decision. Even these family talks. Like with my older boys, as you guys know, I get pretty raw. I talk about our family life. And I went to my older boys, especially. The younger ones are still kind of figuring it out. I said, can I talk about this? Are you guys comfortable with this? And they basically said, we're very proud of you. Please keep going. So that's, you know what I mean? Where people are like, I can't talk. And I'm sure you guys see this. People are like, I don't want to talk about family. They start crossing their arms. It's like an embarrassment. There's no perfect family without bridging imperfections. But I always say, you are in charge of your kids. You can discipline them, but ask them for permission. And see what they say when I say, hey, I want to do this, or hey, we're going to go to Florida. And you know what I mean? It's to have their support. That's so important. Just so.
Jim, how can people reach you? I've got the book up again, Family Board Meeting. How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, if they want to learn more about our talks and workshops, they can go to 18summers.com. We also have the Facebook page, 18 Summers, a private group where we talk about different family issues and rhythms and keeping people accountable to be putting their family ahead of their biggest clients and investors in their growth of business. So yeah, they can join us there on Facebook as well.
So I want to tell the listeners that Jim is going to be one of our big speakers at our live event in October 19th and 20th at the Gaylord Palms. We're going to have the link down below in the show notes for Jim's websites and also how to purchase a ticket, because multifamily mastery is not just about real estate. I wanted to incorporate the family aspect of it. So he's going to be giving a great, talk on it. He's going to bring his principles on there. And Jim also dives into the financial aspect of how to teach your kids finances. We could go on for hours talking on this podcast. So I just want to let you know, if you are into really the family and incorporating family life with business life and strengthening those relationships and those bonds, you need to come and see him on October 19th and 20th, because it's going to be an awesome event. He's going to be, I think, on Saturday morning, he's going to be there. You need to come out and listen to him because it's awesome. You read the book. First thing you need to do is read the book, take notes. Second thing is start implementing these action steps. So when you come and see him in October, shake his hand and say, hey, Jim, You revolutionized the way I, with my kids. So everybody make sure you get out there. And I want to thank Jim for taking the